I call on Minister Tom Arthur to speak to the motion.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I would like to draw the Parliament's attention to the procedural connection between this debate and Rule 9.16.7 of the Standing Orders, which states that a Scottish rate resolution must be agreed before Stage 3 of the Budget Bill is able to proceed. Presiding Officer, this rate resolution debate is set against a backdrop of one of the most challenging periods for the economy and public finances that we have seen since devolution almost a quarter of a century ago. Over the course of the last year, we have seen Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine, a cost of living crisis, spiralling inflation and the continuing economic impact from Brexit, all while recovering from a global pandemic. We have been forced to navigate all of this essentially with our hands tied, given the limited fiscal powers at our disposal. Not only are we unable to borrow to support businesses and households in these challenging times, we also have no legislative powers over key policy areas that would support the wider economy, such as the energy market and immigration. Therefore, Presiding Officer, in the 2023-24 budget, we have taken the difficult but necessary decisions to allow us to protect our vital public services, upon which so many households, communities and indeed the Scottish economy relies on. Certainly.
Willie Rennie.
We will cautiously support the resolution today, but since it's an emergency, we understand the need to protect the public finances. But if the public finances improve, the economy improves, is it the Government's intention to restore the lower levels of taxation before this resolution?
Minister.
I want to thank Mr Rennie for his support for the resolution, for his constructive engagement and indeed for his enthusiasm when he wants to start talking about the 24-25 budget at this stage. As I'm sure he appreciates, we will set out decisions on tax policy at each budget in turn, which will take into account a number of factors, including the prevailing economic conditions. It is, however, at this point vital, and now more than ever, that we are guided by the principles of our framework for tax, which we published in December 2021. And one of these principles is engagement. And that is why, ahead of the Scottish Budget, the Deputy First Minister and I listened to a range of stakeholders, and we thank all those involved for their input. Presiding Officer, we heard a consistent message from our engagement that we need to use the tax powers to support and invest in our public services, reaffirm our commitment to reaching net zero emissions, tackle child poverty and support the economy. Our income tax policy for 2023-24 responds to this, seeking to strike a balance between ensuring there is enough money for public spending and acknowledging the challenging economic conditions facing households and businesses, and support Scotland being a great place to live, work, study and do business. Our proposed income tax policy for 2023-24 is for there to be no changes to the starter, basic or intermediate rates and bands to protect those on lower incomes. We also propose no change to the current higher rate threshold of £43,662 and lowering of the top rate threshold from £150,000 to £125,140. Finally, we propose raising the higher and top rates of tax by 1 pence, bringing them to 42 pence and 47 pence respectively. We have estimated that the income tax policies which I am asking members to vote for today will raise an additional £519 million for the Scottish Budget in 23-24. These policy changes, grounded by our principles of taxation, will enhance the progressive approach to tax that we have taken to date. The majority of additional revenue raised from these changes will come from those individuals and households in the top 2 income deciles. Our approach will mean we can continue supporting our leading social contract with the people of Scotland, while also ensuring the majority of taxpayers still pay less in income tax than if they lived elsewhere in the UK. And crucially, as set out by the Deputy First Minister in his budget statement in December, the changes announced for 2023-24 mean we will be in a position to exceed the health resource Barnett consequentials received from the UK Government with substantial additional investment for our National Health Service. Our NHS is a precious public asset, and by choosing to raise more revenue from tax to invest in vital frontline services, we are making an investment that will benefit all of us. Presiding Officer, I would like to close by reminding members that not only have we had to make these income tax policy choices in the difficult economic climate that we face, but within what has been frankly political chaos set by the UK Government in the past year. 2022 saw a total of four UK Chancellors in the space of 4 months. We saw constant U-turns on tax policy from UK Government ministers, and we should not forget the ill-judged tax cuts from their short-lived mini-budget in September, and the impact on financial markets that many in Scotland are still facing as a consequence. This chaos presented significant challenges for developing our transparent income tax policy in Scotland. The UK Government's financial plans look increasingly bleak, and there is no doubt that this will present significant fiscal challenges for us here in Scotland. The OBR estimates that the UK has entered a recession that will last for over a year. Well, just last week, the IMF suggested that Britain will be the only G7 economy forecast to shrink in 2023. Presiding Officer, this Government is clear in what its priorities are. We are choosing to invest in the economy, to invest in our leading social contract and to invest in the people of Scotland. And that is why I ask members today to vote to ratify the proposed changes to Scottish income tax set out in the budget 2023-24.
Thank you.